Welcome to Heart Over Ego Radio, a collection of podcasts designed to enhance your spiritual journey. Join us on Mondays with the Alchemy Sisters and Creating Heaven on Earth. Tuesdays, Star Medicine Podcast and KT Talk Show. Wednesdays, Political Star Talk. Thursdays, the Optimistic Wellness Podcast. Fridays, Turn Yourself In, Self-Mastery for the Intuitive Sensitive Empath. And The Witching Hour, as well as Horror Magic, a show designed to heal stigma around sexuality. Saturdays, Seen and Heard, a podcast about abuse. And Shining the Light on Sex Trafficking. And Sundays, Gather Round for One for All Is Love with Sonia Spirit. We are Heart Over Ego Radio. Find us on any podcast app, Facebook and Instagram. Search Heart Over Ego Radio.
Hello and welcome to Creating Heaven on Earth, a discussion about grounding our collective vision of heaven to earth, what the difference is between the 5D and the 3D, and what we as individuals can do to assist ourselves and the collective in ascension. Today, I am so excited to be joined by a beautiful guest and friend of Heart Over Ego Radio, Cinnamon Moon. Cinnamon is a teacher of nature-based spirituality, a radio host, author, clairsentient, and so much more. Welcome, Cinnamon. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great, honey. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited and so honored to hold space with you. Cinnamon is an incredible teacher and shaman of this new age and new era, and we've had her as a guest on the Alchemy Sisters and some of our other shows, and I'm just so excited to hear some of your thoughts and your perspectives as we're ascending into this whole new chapter of planet Earth and Earth School.
Yes, it's exciting stuff, isn't it? Oh, I love it.
It sure is. Could you just give our listeners a little bit of information about who you are and what your magic is in the world right now?
Well, yeah, I'm a teacher and reader and author and all kinds of, got my hands in lots of pies. You can find me on my website, which is spiritlodge.itgo.com. You can find me on Facebook. And in my group over there, I have a Cinnamon Moon page, and I have Two Moons Talking, which is a private group for spiritually focused individuals for inspiration, and they can post questions or get answers if they're seeking information that they're looking for so that they can grow. It's an interactive group.
Beautiful. Ah, that's so wonderful. So Cinnamon and I were chatting for a couple minutes before the show, and Cinnamon mentioned that back in around January, she started to connect with some new guides and channel some new information. So I'd love it, Cinnamon, if you would share some of that experience with us.
I'll be happy to. Back in January, I was gifted with a cluster of celestite. And that's a crystal that enhances connection with spirit guides and angels, and opens the third eye. It reduces spiritual leakage. What else? Aids with the clairs and spiritual development overall. And it helps to connect with your inner spirit. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect, as I'm not one to work with a lot of stones. And when I picked it up and held it in my hand, the connection was instant. And what followed really threw me for a loop. I could feel this angelic energy. And I thought, that's who was coming through. And then telepathically, I heard, we're not angels. We are the speakers. And we speak to you as one voice. And I could feel there was a group. And they often, now, as time has gone on, they've shown me that they change members as needed depending on what they're conveying. But they do indeed speak as one. So that was curious. And then I wanted validation that they were who they claimed to be. So I asked for some background. And they told me they were once in human form and what culture they came from. So I began to research. And I wanted to be certain that I knew who I was working with. Well, the research proved accurate. They came from around 3000 BC. They were from the Persian Empire, and they have a biblical history. And today they've become ascended masters, and their ways have changed, of course, to reflect that. And I have no recall of ever having heard of them before. So that was rather an intense experience and research period for me. And I think I told you, Mandee, they're the Elam. And it tickled me.
You did. The chills that went through my body when you sent that message.
Yeah. But the speaker said they would be channeling to and through me. And that's what began to happen. So I was doing sessions with them, and their focus has been all about moving from 3D to 5D. So I was tickled when he invited me on the show to share some of those insights. The 5D information is pretty simple. It's actually bringing heaven to earth by raising consciousness. And this means it's not a physical shift, though there will be physical symptoms along with the energetic ones, but a shift in consciousness where manifestation, like they say heaven is like, comes from our thoughts and intentions. Think it and it's going to appear. So the key is that it has to serve your higher good and that of the whole at the same time. Now that's the simple version. We'll get into more, but the more intricate one is we have to learn to raise our consciousness to that level and hold it there 24/7, which is what the 4D arena is for. It's a practice arena and a bridge that allows us to practice and move back and forth between those conscious dimensions and hone ourselves as we're learning to intend and hold that intent. So it's simple, but it's amazing, and it's fascinating at the same time. I love it.
It really is. And how beautiful. Cinnamon's been at this work a long time and a pioneer in so many ways. And I just think it's so beautiful that you got to work with a new consciousness that you had never even heard of before to give you information, to help with ascension.
And at my age, I'm in my 70s now, so to have new guides pop in really kind of took me by surprise. I'm going, where are you coming from and why now? But they had more work for me. They had more work for me to do, so there they were.
How beautiful. And I love the way you described the 4D as a practice.
Pardon me?
Oh, yeah. I was just commenting and saying I love how you describe the 4D as a practice ground to get all this training. I think that's fantastic.
Oh, well, it is. It's the bridge between 3 and 5. See? There are some key factors that I can share here. Choice in consciousness and intent is going to elevate vibrational frequency. If you choose to raise your consciousness and stay there, you raise your frequency. Critical mass is being achieved, and those who have raised consciousness will recognize others who have advanced to 5D as well. The collective consciousness is part of 5D. And like I said earlier, it's a form of heaven on earth where we manifest by intent. Well, for years we've heard about how when you go to heaven, anything you want's going to be there. You just have to think it, and it appears. That's what 5D is. But you have to think it for the higher good. And we're simply to step into love and grace and kindness and compassion and release fear and apprehension as we begin to work with that awareness. So if we trust our intentions, they're going to validate through observation as the manifestations and synchronicities of events take place. So we're actually attuning to and dwelling in the 5D reality at all times. And this is the goal that we're working toward. But this has never been possible for humanity on the whole to achieve. And we're being gifted right now to recognize that and work toward it. So it's choice. And I think if people can realize how powerful and amazing their divine spirit is, and learn to work with their abilities, learn to work with the divine within themselves, they bring it forth and allow it to shine, and they become a beacon, and they move right into 5D.
Absolutely. You know, that's a big intention of what our mission is here at Heart Over Ego Radio. It's starting to make decisions based on what your heart wants most, maybe not what anyone else thinks or might think, as long as it's for the highest good. And often when you follow those heartstrings and not so much what maybe your ego is saying, it'll often lead to the path for the highest good of all. And I love how you talked about how it really, your choice and your intentions need to be paired, and that energy is really what changes the frequency, because it is wonderful to have intentions, but if we don't make choices or take action steps or pair it with a behavior or an energy, it doesn't bulk it up as much to put it out there, so it seems to me.
Yeah, I would agree. And it can be that simple, making a choice and walking in it. But for some people, they have to make that choice every day. Some people can make it once and stay with it. You know, it just depends on how focused and attuned you are. I get up every morning and align myself. And I align with guidance, and I ask my guides to come in and walk with me and talk with me and show me what I need to see that day. And that just kind of gives me a mindset to keep my eyes open, keep my awareness up, and it's something that anybody could do. You know, I think if you start your day wanting to be aware, you walk through it with that consciousness, you know, and then you see the signs and you see the opportunities, and little things stand out and they grab your attention, and you find they're answering issues that you've got in mind or questions you've been asking, that type of thing. So I think it's something that we can all do. It's a gift to us if we choose to embrace it. And if you don't, you're still going to evolve. We're all evolving into this 5D. But if you don't raise your awareness and your vibration, you're going to stay on the 3D level. The only way to get to 5D is to raise your vibratory frequency. You have to be not only conscious of, but living in that frequency and intending to live that way for the higher good, because the baser toxic energies or negative attitudes, that kind of thing, cannot exist on that level. Is that making sense?
That makes perfect sense to me. And I've described on the show before that a lot of the lower frequency vibrations that keep us bound and keep us in these limited belief thoughts and processes that society and our current 3D matrix has created, it keeps us very bound by guilt and shame, fear, worry. And some of the best ways that you can practice and transition and transmute this energy to start raising your consciousness is just to practice it in each and every moment, whether it's waking up, like Cinnamon said. I do a very similar thing. I wake up and I ground in with my higher self and angels and energies before I take on anyone or anything else. Then the dogs get to go to the bathroom. Then I take on the day from there. But when you make these conscious choices, it makes such a huge difference. And the real work is when you practice a pause and you take emotional responsibility for how you want to choose to respond to a situation, whether it's a silly Facebook post or a confrontation with a family member, or perhaps something going on in your career. there's all of these opportunities to constantly practice our actions and our reactions and get a little closer into our own divine spirit, which often feels like peace and love and non-judgment. There's a reason that we're wanting to overcome all of these lower vibrational feelings, such as, fear and anger and guilt and shame and these things that keep us bound. Of course, there's a very healthy little balance to that will help to keep us balanced. But most of it is really being called to fall away within so many of us individually, which I think is going to help to assist the collective.
Yeah, and I think if people can differentiate between reaction and response, it really helps. Because there is a difference between the two. If we're reacting, we're knee-jerking, we're having an emotional reaction, and we're not thinking about what we're doing so much as just reacting to it. If we respond, we're responding consciously. We're coming at something from an understanding point of view, and we know how to handle ourselves and either navigate or negotiate a situation. So I prefer to choose to respond rather than react. It's that simple.
I love that. It's so powerful, and it does seem like such a simple difference, but the energy between, when you even just think about the word react and respond, it has different energies to it. I love that you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah, and, there's all sorts of challenges to getting into 5D from this 3D reality that we're in. And they call for some deep soul searching. They call for reprioritizing, a chosen awareness that will maintain our conscious evolution to align with those transitions. And as we transcend, we become more of who we were meant to be, more aware of our divinity, more aware of our authenticity, more in the sense of a very humbling and magnificent experience as event after event aligns with us as we bring our consciousness into focused play. And we're going to start seeing, once we get this alignment in order, we're going to start seeing that our intentions are manifesting. They're bringing things into physical form. I just want to address the dimensions for a moment because they're accessed by our conscious intent and the vibrational frequency that results from it. So it's not so much a physical shift as it is a state of consciousness. And it's available to everyone by exercising free will and choosing to elevate the awareness. Now, our intentions can elevate us or they can drag us down. It depends on where we're at with them. And when we connect to the divinity within ourselves, we're humbling ourselves and we're recognizing our own sovereign divine power. And we begin to explore it with some caution because it's pretty intense. Now, that's done in that 4D arena that I was talking about. And again, it's a bridge or a gateway to 5D. And we go back and forth for quite a while as we hone ourselves and establish this new frequency range consciously. So the old adage that thoughts are things comes viscerally alive for us in this transition phase. And we come to understand that as we intend our thoughts, the manifestation of our intentions is going to just automatically follow. The universe is responding to our vibration, and it's co-creating with us. So the validations come often quite instantly or within a very short span of time to corroborate the experience of 5D reality.
That's so beautiful. And it's true, and it's interesting because I've talked with a lot of other healers and just people on their ascension path, and I will hear people say things like, I was so in tune and I was manifesting things instantly and I felt so aligned, and now I'm not, or what am I doing wrong? Have you ever experienced that, or have people ever told that to you. For me, I've noticed.
Yeah, I hear it. I have found for myself that it's been fluid for me, and maybe because these guides have come through and I've stayed consciously aware of it on a day-to-day basis since the beginning of the year, it's been pretty intense for me. So I'm seeing manifestation in my life. But when people fall away, I just remind them, hey, it's like meditation. Your mind wanders. You got to bring it back to the point. It's not that you're being negligent or you're doing something wrong. It's just you've got to condition the mind to stay on track. That's all. So you come back and align your intent, and things start manifesting again. So it really is all about intention and where you're placing your awareness. And that's been something that has been taught through centuries of spiritual teachings. Intent is everything. Thoughts are things. I'm not anyone special. We're all equal in this. These energies, they flow through us. We don't even have to be aware of them for that to happen, because it's coming in through the universe itself to the planet. And it's touching all of us. So it helps a great deal to choose to remain aware of our evolutionary phases of advancement at these times. But each of us has the option to take up 5D residency, and it all comes down to a simple choice. The fifth dimension is a dimension of consciousness. We don't have to leave the 3D reality to go there. In the physical sense, our physical bodies will remain where they are as we continue to do our thing, whatever that may be. Life will continue as it always has. However, what and how we do things may change if we opt to raise our conscious awareness and vibration and step into the 5D mentality. Then we intend manifestation, and seeing that validate itself becomes second nature. And when that happens, when it's second nature, we know we've arrived. We can stay there. We can hold that vibration. So what shifts does, because we shift our consciousness. And as we do that, our awareness aligns with our divine purpose and our intent to fulfill it. And we literally step onto a conscious path of higher purpose, entering into a new vibratory field with our physical presence. So in making the choice of raising your awareness and your vibration as a result, you'll begin to see other changes come into being simultaneously. And everyone is going to be validated for that. Do it, and you're going to see a validation for it.
Absolutely. So beautiful. I think that's where kind of the essence of discipline and devotion, mostly devotion, or, devotion to yourself comes in, because you can start to choose consciousness and choose to be on this level. And, when I was talking about it falling away for certain people, sometimes I think it's just that. You have to step back in and practice your medicines and redevote yourself to yourself and your higher self and consciousness. And I also think, it's important as we're ascending along this journey just to be so gentle with yourselves too, because there needs to also maybe be some time for integration and practicing, experiencing these new things coming in.
Yeah, and we do have to assimilate with this along the way. In 5D, the law of attraction is a commonplace occurrence. And these teachings and ways are sacred. They're magical. They're filled with phenomenal experiences that are going to have you living your life in joyful authenticity that's continually surrounded by irony and wonder, and it brings about the ability to raise your awareness at will and get through to 5D reality. And in order to dwell there, this ability is going to be a constant way of being in the world. So the awareness is tied to manifestation. And I think it's amazing. I mean, through my own experiences, it's amazing how it all comes together in a union that unfolds in the most beautifully unique tapestry. And it's one that belongs to each and every individual in a unique way. It brings their artistry, their magic to all others who are blessed to witness or connect with it. And in awakening to 5D mindfulness, which has become another catchphrase these days, you're aware of the collective presence and your place within it. So the oneness that we've been talking about for how many years, that oneness becomes alive for us. We're living in it, conscious of it. And with that in mind, everything we do is with the intent to serve that greater whole as well as our own desires. We're not doing anything to harm anybody. War doesn't exist there. Negative, toxic thinking or behavior doesn't exist there. And those who are still in the 3D mentality are going to look at those in 5D and say, how come they're so lucky? When it has nothing to do with luck, it has everything to do with the alignment.
Yeah, my favorite definition of luck is preparation meeting the opportunity. So it's just like that energy we're talking about, where you show up. I think I heard it from Oprah first, but I think she got it from somewhere else a long time ago. But if you show up with these, with intentions, it's amazing what you can make happen for yourself.
Well, it is, because when we've mastered ourselves, our mindsets and our intentions, when we've learned to focus them, we enter into our co-creative nature and manifestation just takes place. It's undeniable. And we're all heading there. It's just that some of us are awake and consciously entering into the experiences while others remain oblivious to them, and they experience it the hard way as their eyes are open due to challenges rather than a simple intention. And when we're not seeing the truth, life is just going to jolt us into waking up to them. So what's happened is you become fully heart-centered and attuned to the divinity of the spiritual nature within yourself as a part of that greater whole, the oneness. And you begin to live as if heaven resides on earth, and you conduct yourself as a divine being. And in a sense, it does when you shift your intentions to that dimension. And it's impacting governments and societies and communities. We're all evolving. Every aspect of life is evolving right now. And elitism is on the decline and selfish greed with it. Equality of all people, race, religion, class, gender, economic, whatever classification exists, is going to be dissolving to create that equality across the board, because all paths, all acts of service, and stations in life are going to be perceived as equal in value. That's why they say we're the change, or you're the change. It begins within you. It does. And as you embrace your own changes, the world around you will become responsive. Your witness to this validation for yourself, and as the validations come, they solidify the knowledge and your way of being in the world. You've had so much validation after a certain period of time that you can't deny it. It's a reality. It becomes part of your reality, and all of a sudden, boom, there you are in 5D.
Here I am, and it does. It has a whole different kind of feeling when you're operating, because you've often done a lot of work on your biomagnetic field and your traumas and your dramas, and you're not resonating in as much lower vibrational feelings such as those guilt, shame, resentment, anxieties, those lower feelings that keep us kind of trapped into thinking that we're not worthy and that everything, isn't working out for us. There's a big separation. And it seems when you or myself, when I operate on more of a 5D level, I feel so held and I trust so much in my higher self and my path and what I'm meant to be doing at that time. There's this beautiful fluidity that comes into it. And I loved so much about what you were talking about. It made me think about how this whole ascending to 5D, it's really it's this whole concept of inner evolution that's leading to the collective revolution. The more we just take responsibilities for our own individual energies, the more we feed and help the collective to ascend together.
Oh, for sure. And when the 5D energies come into activation mode, we become activated too, and there are some unique experiences that begin to unfold, and they mark endings and doors that have to close as we relax ourselves in a sort of willing surrender and release what is outworn. And we're doing that as individuals. I think the pandemic is helping us in that way. I think it has a higher purpose that goes beyond humanity's purpose for it. I mean, we know it's man-made virus. We know it was released on the world. But if you go above that to the spiritual perspective, you're going to see that this sequestering that we've all been going through is giving us the isolated space to reprioritize our lives, to see what really, truly matters to us that we've been blind to maybe for a while, you know. And as we get our priorities in place and we step back out into the world, we're going to be changed, and the world around us is changing, and it's happening for everybody. So then it becomes critical mass. And we enter, and that goes into the collective consciousness, can tap into when we're in 5D. So it's such a good feeling to let go willingly, knowing that for a time we're going to maybe remain empty, but it won't be for long. The activation of the 5D energy surges or waves coming into the planet means that things will intensify. And while the surges may happen energetically at a point, they can sometimes take a bit to be recognized. If you're conscious of the waves as they're coming in, that recognition comes much faster, and you may wonder how you're going to know when they're coming. And really, there are so many individuals who are marking the stargates or galactic gateways, as they're often called, and many willing to spread the word of when they're opening and closing. And there's a gate every month, every single month. And as this process completes, you begin entering 5D, and the pattern of entry repeats as you become accustomed to and attuned with it. And the period of attunement is going to vary to the needs of each individual, so no need to compare or compete. You're right where you need to be. That old adage is going to stay with you for life. Don't compete with anybody else. Just go there and at your own pace. Simply find your resonance and your comfort level with the personal and dimensional vibration. You're a part of creation. It's nothing to fear one way or the other. Only the choice to exercise your ability to discern your options and then act wisely. And your gratitude's going to show. It attracts more to be grateful for when you're grateful, you know. So it's just a new way of
does.
Yeah. And it's happening on a global scale, so that's exciting, you know, and we can prepare for it.
That is exciting. And we can prepare for it. And I was thinking so much when you were talking about the gifts of COVID, us being isolated, it has been scary, but we are in our own biomagnetic fields, many of us for the first time ever, which is where a lot of our kind of traumas and dramas and old belief systems live. And they're having an opportunity to be kind of cleared out, and we're having an opportunity to step into our own sovereign space and feel what does feel most in alignment with us. I'm really glad you brought up competition, too. That's something that I've been seeing rising a lot with women in particular, some clients, some groups I've been in, different things, I've been noticing that the competition has risen just a little, but just enough to help it to fall away. And I've been seeing people being kinder to one another and giving each other tips and different things. Even when I was taking a walk this morning, I saw two women run by one another, and I say hi to everybody, but a lot of times people don't say hi, and they've had very straight faces, and as soon as they got right close to each other, they both smiled and said, like, hello. And I just thought this like really cool exchange of energy. And it's so funny how these very simple things within our lives and these simple actions that we make really do end up, giving so much to the collective energy and creating that change. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I even saw it on the smallest scale this morning, and I've been seeing it a lot in this sense of maybe it's rising to kind of combust and fall away a bit, because the more in tune we get with our own sovereign paths, we realize we're so individual.
I agree, and I think when the competitiveness does assert itself, it comes to our attention, and then we can recognize that we're being competitive and say, I don't need to do that. And just let it go. Just let it go. You don't have to bury it or do anything with it. Just let it go. Just stop being competitive. Choose. Life is choice. And
that's a big reprogram. That's a big conscious work, because whether you grew up doing sports or just grew up in, the United States of America and this society, you were fed competition. So that's going to be a huge one in ascending.
Yeah, it is. And at the same time, we're growing in our abilities and our awareness of them, working on ourselves and learning to master what we can do. Spirit guides and angels, along with the universe, are protecting us and working with us. And they're going to come forward. If they haven't already, they will be coming forward. So by heeding your thoughts and raising them to be as positive as possible, you align with these benefactors. And the change that's occurring right now is powerful. And sometimes we need to take a step back, at least far enough out of the mix of things to see clearly the directions that we need to take for ourselves, regardless of what the rest of the world is doing. And sometimes it takes inner strength to make those choices. But in that, we grow stronger too, because our heart and our mind and our body and our soul grow together, aligned together. And so we're aligning on all these levels, and in this we achieve a state of balance with an elevated vibration, and with that we progress away from the weighted and toxic dramas, away from those things that would pull us back down. And it's just a choice not to allow that to happen. So we can keep the process very simple, knowing all we have to do is every day, every moment, if something feels heavy, we choose to lift up. Let it go and go up. The fifth dimension is unseen by those of us residing in 3D mentality. I mentioned this a bit ago. In 5D, the forces of gravity and electromagnetic form join in union, creating a much lighter frequency, lighter being higher in its vibratory rate. So this is where we experience more purity in the love that we hold. We tap into the cosmic or collective consciousness and have an understanding of what true cosmic multidimensional reality is about. Anything you wish to know can be accessed immediately, and you'll be likely to foresee the outcomes to events in the future, but not alter them or impact them with the will of great mystery. Alignment with it and attunement to it is present at all times, so life is amazing. It's filled with irony. It has awesome events that are happening, phenomenal things, and you know what true perfection is because you're experiencing it. So it's kind of like becoming self-realized. We step through this doorway of consciousness, and we do it through our heart center, through love for ourself, the divine self, and we each must process our old wounds, our old negativity or baggage, and rise above the toxic environment of the 3D reality wherever we are currently standing. It doesn't matter. And that process is very individualized, so there's no competition with others, simply the act of doing. And for years, through the generations, indigenous teachings have spoken of this time, this crossroads that we're at, coming into being. And it's not a time to be afraid of. It's a time to do what needs to be done. That's it. Just do what you have to do and contribute in whatever way you can, and that's enough. Spirit's not going to ask you to do any more than you're capable of doing.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so beautiful. I had a thought when you were talking about, how the 3D and the 5D are always going to exist simultaneously. And when we get into this vision of New Earth and what that looks like and, less competition, more heart, I have these thoughts of even when we get to this place of what we, consider utopia or whatnot, there's always going to be the opportunity to learn and grow. And when we welcome in new souls and new spirits, who knows what they're going to be wanting to learn and ascend. And there's probably, we come in, some of us, with certain awarenesses or sensitivities when we're born, sometimes more than others, but we're all, like you said, capable of it. And I'm so interested in the individual path as we continue to ascend as well. Because I keep hearing about, just all these New Earth communities and parents raise, conscious parenting, which is beautiful and wonderful and great. And then I'll see, sometimes, that child might come in, super magical, and you might create the best environment ever, but that soul is still going to have to maybe want to create conflict with you or step outside of whatever you created that container to be, because they're still going to be wanting to ascend and learn in their own personal sovereign path. It's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. Another thing that happens with 5D transition is time. Technological advances come faster and faster, and we've gone from megabytes to gigabytes to where we are now with terabytes, and I don't know if there's something else beyond that or not, but I'm not a techie person, but it's phenomenal.
Not my language.
As the processing and assessing of information has become instantaneous. So because it's going to be needed, and in a sense is part of the physical counterpart to the spiritual aspects of the collective consciousness, the duality is present within the spiritual and physical side of the united whole. That's what makes it whole. But it dissolves and becomes one in 5D. In 3D, the duality is separate. So in that whole, there are many layers, many dimensions, countless different worlds within worlds. The ancients, the sages and the crones and the wise ones of all traditions have addressed this layered aspect as part of the veiled realities. They call it layers of an onion or lots of different terms for it. But this knowledge that was once held by an elite group of individuals in roles of spiritual leadership is now being made accessible to everyone who consciously chooses to embrace and explore it. And I find that really exciting stuff. the speakers that come to me have mentioned that time is relevant to humankind as a construct, and the sense of things moving faster is therefore accurate due to the vibrational elevation taking place during evolution surges. So what's happening is a higher frequency has begun being accessible, and energy accelerates itself at an increased level. And when energy accelerates, time and matter follow. So things are happening faster, we're moving faster, we're rising up. The higher elevation, the increased frequency lifts up. So we have to learn to work with that energy. We have to feel it and ride it like a wave, like you're surfing, kind of, you got to go with it.
You really do. That's a great way to put it. Oh, so many things, so many questions.
Yeah. Well, and one of my earliest lessons with energy, and this is for those that are not used to working with it, is to just sit on the ground with your knees bent and your feet flat and your hands with the palms down at your side and draw the Earth Mother's energy up into yourself. And once you feel it tingling and going up your arms and legs, because the soles of the feet and the center of your palms have power centers to them, you can let it rise to the crown of your head and then send it back to the Earth Mother. And just practice doing this back and forth, back and forth. It's very invigorating and it's cleansing to your system at the same time. But you can expect, when you're working with this energy, expect spiritual experiences and watch for them, because they're going to begin to stand out for you, containing little miracles and alignments that are beneficial. Pay attention to the synchronicities in your life and how things are coming together, indicating you're on the right path. Focus on unity, aligning with people that resonate with you. It just feels good to be around those that do resonate. Change is inevitable. I mean, life is constantly changing. But what we're experiencing now is monumental in scope, and it's good to be aware of where you are in the process. So pay attention to the vibrations of the spirit realms and know that your guides are going to guide you through them. You just have to listen.
Absolutely. And I love that you said a no, because it's about trusting. And when you were talking about the signs, I was giggling because there really is. It seems so subtle, some of these signs that you'll get, but when you start to connect them and let yourself be held and be sung by the universe, they're everywhere. And it turns into this beautiful, magical dance. And you float throughout your day just thinking about things, and then the answers appear without even sometimes having to ask or open your mouth. And when you allow yourself to tune in and just receive, the universe does want to co-create and wants you to feel held and know that this is real.
Well, and that's the whole thing here is we hear about magic. People talk about it. People talk about their experiences with it. But when the magic becomes viscerally real for someone that hasn't had those experiences, and it comes alive, and you can see it happening in your own life, it's amazing. It's exciting. And you go, wow, I could have been doing this all along. And you could have. But, for so long, we were indoctrinated into society and told, close that door. Don't go into your fantasy world. Don't play pretend. That you're having imaginary friends. They're not imaginary. That's your guides coming through. Mm-hmm. They're not invisible friends that you make up. They're there for you. You're the one closing the door if they seem to go away, but they don't really leave you. They're there. And the minute you open the door again, they're going to come through.
Absolutely.
So the magic becomes very real.
Spirit.
Say that again, Mandee. I missed you.
I just said I was just agreeing, and I'm not sure what I said. I think I just said yes, and I agree, and it just does. It becomes very, very real when you allow it to.
Yeah, and it's so exciting when the phenomena starts, and you see somebody that's just coming to this. It gives me the giggles. I love to see their eyes light up and their faces light up, and you can see their spirit come alive in them, and they're just all so excited. It's contagious. I don't see how anybody can't be happy for somebody going through that. It doesn't make sense to be. You got to be happy. Yeah, you did it. Good. You're working.
And it's
in
when
an
you
attitude.
can see a soul step into alignment, it is. And that's the true magic. And allow, and you giving permission to let yourself feel that excited about it, because people will question it right away and say, oh, no, that didn't really happen.
Years ago, one of my early teachers said to me, attitude is altitude. And if you think about it, if you have a positive attitude, it lifts you up and you have a good day. If you have a negative attitude, it drags you down and the day's a long one. And you come home and you're exhausted and you're bummed out and you just want to sink into the sofa and pass out or something. It's dragging on you. You're depressed. But if you have a good attitude, it lifts you up. You got energy. You can accomplish all kinds of things. Time seems to stand still and let you get as much done as you possibly can, and it's wonderful. So I think that's a good little analogy for people to carry with them. Attitude is altitude. Want to raise your vibration? Raise your attitude. Lift it. Choose it.
Absolutely.
Change the channel.
That's just the thing. Your day, this is where there's always an opportunity. Every single moment you have, like if you had a bad morning, and that's the thing, if you can meet yourself with love and forgiveness and compassion and say, if it were me, and I'm like, okay, Mandee, you acted that way for a really long time and you're changing a habit, and sure, you spun out, you had a bad morning, but you know what? The rest of the day isn't over, and you can cleanse and recalibrate and restart your day moment by moment and take that energy back. It doesn't, it's so important to be gentle with ourselves as we're ascending, and I love this attitude is altitude, because that's what it feels like for me. I was lucky enough when I was in probably 7th grade to learn about attitude of gratitude from a basketball coach, and just saying, thank you for whoever brought you, to practice today. And I started embodying it then, and I would always feel such a difference. And it wasn't until later on in my spiritual journey I realized just how important that energy was. And I love comparing it with this altitude and the ascension.
Yeah, and higher vibratory rates come from those who are soul-based in their identity, and they seek unification as well as unconditional love in all relationships. They're not judging. Thinking is intuitive or sensory-based. There's a heart-centeredness in one's nature that is cultivated through the divine focus and the ability to dwell in that cultivation. So the mind's set sees the blessings, it sees the abundance, the love, and the nurturance that's offered to all of us at all times as our sustenance. And we need it as we face the challenge of transitioning, because your intuitive abilities should encourage you to keep following your inner spirit and recognize that you're in the right place at the right time. Keeping the mind, body, and spirit balance is important. And we can't choose one over the other. They're all equal in importance. So learn to trust what you're feeling, seeing, hearing, and sensing on all levels, and make the shift a conscious one. That's all. Make it conscious.
Consciousness is 5D. Absolutely. Well, this has just been such a beautiful and heartwarming conversation, and I'm so grateful that you shared your time with me and with our listeners. And I thank so much the speakers for coming through and giving some information. It's been absolutely wonderful, Cinnamon.
Well, thank you, dear, for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with you. You have a good day. And your listeners, too.
Will you tell our listeners one more time how they can get a hold of you and about your shows here on Blog Talk?
Yes, I have Cinnamon Moon at Night. That's Monday evenings at 7 o'clock Central Time, 2 hours every Monday. I have Two Moons Talking Group over on Facebook. There's a Cinnamon Moon page over there. And Spirit Lodge is my teaching website. It's designed for independent study, and you can have coaching sessions with me if you want them. They're optional. The site is spiritlodge.itgo.com. So that's where I'm at. I do readings.
Beautiful.
And I teach. Mm-hmm.
You are a absolutely fantastic reader and teacher, and we are just honored. Really quick, before we end, we have just a few minutes. I was wondering, what is your vision of the new Earth? In just like a couple of minutes, what would you like to see, or what do you see all of us coming together and co-creating?
Peace, love, kindness. Peace is, I've always been a peacemaker my whole life anyway. I don't like fighting. I don't like arguing. It disturbs my spirit. So I would like to see a kinder, gentler, more compassionate world. And I think we're coming into that. I think people are tired of tyranny and war and all the negative energies that have weighed us down and living in terror. Who wants to live like that? You know, there's enough on this planet to sustain everybody that's here if we get rid of the greed and the corruption. There's enough for everybody. The land is there. We can grow crops and we can share them, you know, exchange, trade, whatever you want to do. But we can become caretakers of Mother Earth again, and she'll be generous with us all. So I think that's what it is. I want to be in 5D, and I want to stay there. I like hanging out up there.
I do
good.
too. It does feel good. What beautiful intentions. Well, thank you so much, Cinnamon. Thank you to our listeners. You are tuning in here on Heart Over Ego Radio, and we're sending you all the love and appreciate you showing up in this incarnation. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Heart Over Ego Radio, a collection of podcasts designed to enhance your spiritual journey. Join us on Mondays with the Alchemy Sisters and Creating Heaven on Earth. Tuesdays, Star Medicine Podcast and KT Talk Show. Wednesdays, Political Star Talk. Thursdays, the Optimistic Wellness Podcast. Fridays, Turn Yourself In, Self-Mastery for the Intuitive Sensitive Empath. And The Witching Hour, as well as Horror Magic, a show designed to heal stigma around sexuality. Saturdays, Seen and Heard, a podcast about abuse, and Shining the Light on Sex Trafficking. And Sundays, Gather Round for One for All Is Love with Sonia Spirit. We are Heart Over Ego Radio. Find us on any podcast app, Facebook and Instagram. Search Heart Over Ego Radio.